everyone. I am Lucy Sparrow from the University of Melbourne, and I'm here today to present our paper on behalf of myself and my co-authors, Caiti Galwey, Ben Loveridge, Solange, Margaret Osborne, and Ryan Kelly. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording today, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Now let's start off with a couple of examples to set the scene. The performer Sarah Nicole sits poised at a piano at a darkened concert hall in London. This is no ordinary recital. Strapped around her arms are Myo armbands that track her arm movements, allowing her to generate curious and unnerving sounds through gesture as she plays Atao Tanaka's biometric piano piece, Suspensions. In Madrid, Marco Donnarumma's hunched body heaves concrete blocks painfully across a stage in his performance Hypocrisis. A bespoke biophysical instrument called X-Sense is attached to his arm, prompting loudspeakers to play out the distorted sounds of his straining muscles and crackling bones for the audience. These two artists are both part of a growing exploration of biometric art, and more specifically, the integration of physiological data into artistic performance. In these performances, artists share their biometric data, from heart rate to brainwaves, through sensors and systems that translate this information into visual and auditory outputs. In some cases, the audience's biometric data are even integrated into the performance. Immersive technologies such as virtual reality and augmented reality also play an important role here, reflected particularly in the rise of immersive music concerts in virtual reality. These groundbreaking forms of performance are innovative and fascinating. But there are also ethical risks hidden under the surface, especially when immersive technology enters the picture. Biometric data is a particularly sensitive form of data, which, as we will see, raises a lot of ethical issues that we need to be mindful of when capturing it, even in artistic contexts. In our study, we conducted a scoping review that catalogued these kinds of performances across the past 30 or so years. We had 3 key research questions. 1. How is biometric data being used in immersive artistic performance? 2. For what purpose is biometric data being used in immersive artistic performance? And 3. What ethical considerations are being discussed in relation to immersive artistic performance? Drawing from our answers to these questions, we construct an ethical framework called the BEEP framework to assist researchers and artists in these spaces in tackling some of the ethical issues that arise. Our scoping review followed the PRISMA approach for systematic reviews. We identified relevant databases across multiple fields and screened sources for relevancy through a multi-stage process, arriving at 106 sources for analysis. We then charted the data from these sources using a template and collated our findings. We found that the number of publications and explorations of these kinds of biometric artistic performances has been growing steadily over the past few decades. The creative applications of biometric data were also highly varied. The most common forms of biometric performance in our dataset were music, dance, and art installations. A wide range of biometric data had been used in these performances, including body movement, heart rate, gestures, and brain electrical activity. This data was processed or translated into a variety of formats, the most common of which were sound, music, and video projections. According to our sources, biometric data is used in performance for many important reasons. The first is to facilitate engagement. In particular, biometric data was used to explore and shape the various connections between performers, audience members, and the performance itself. The second was interaction. Biometric data was used to expand the interactions between a performer and their artistic tools, and to create new forms of expressive and artistic control. The third purpose was evaluation. Biometric data was also used to evaluate performances and create training tools to improve performance. For instance, some studies examined the use of biometric data as indicators of audience engagement for evaluating theater, music, and dance performances. Despite the fact that ethical concerns around biometric data are a key focus of biometric research more generally, few sources in our dataset address these concerns. However, some sources did touch upon ethical issues. This included issues of privacy, autonomy, trust, non-maleficence, authorship, artistic integrity, and artistic merit. Privacy was perhaps the biggest concern. Britton Heller's work, for example, highlighted how biometric data can potentially reveal sensitive information about an individual, including health status and even sexual orientation, as well as desires, thoughts, and emotions. This is risky when using commercial immersive technologies like VR headsets for biometric data collection, as it is not clear how this data will be used or misused for purposes such as aggressive and targeted advertising. Artistic integrity was another key ethical issue. There was a concern that using biometric data to evaluate or assess a performance could reduce a performance or performer to, quote, a collection of angles and data points. One study found that performance experts worried that such practices may obscure the ups and downs that make performances meaningful and unique, ultimately damaging artistic integrity. To help artists and researchers navigate some of these ethical issues in immersive biometric artistic performance, we drew on our findings to compile the BEEP framework. BEEP presents a set of 7 ethical prompts that are relevant to these contexts, consisting of a number of associated considerations and suggested actions to take. In the BEEP framework, one prompt we raise is, what kind of biometric data is being collected in the performance? In exploring this prompt, we must consider what this data might inadvertently or even incorrectly reveal about a person, and whether it's the sort of thing they may prefer to keep private. This prompt points to the value of thorough research and planning when collecting biometric data in these contexts. Another prompt we raise is, how is biometric data to be managed in performative contexts? Here, we must consider whether the data needs to be stored, and if so, how, where, and for how long. We also need to think about what kinds of security measures can be put into place. Here, careful consideration of which devices will be used for data collection, as well as their platform policies, is particularly important. One of our core goals with this framework was to acknowledge the important role that artistic performance has in navigating complex ethical issues related to technologies, including biometric capture. At the same time, we also advocate for ethical awareness and intention in using these technologies as part of performance. We hope that our research supports the growth and understanding of these wonderful art forms. We also hope that it furthers ethical discussion of how we may share our hearts, minds, and bodies with each other in ways that are both artistically meaningful and ethical. Please check out our full paper for more details on the fascinating world of immersive biometric artistic performance. We look forward to any comments or questions you may have. Thank you very much.